an opportunity to assist animals in disaster in your community and volunteer with a great group of motivated people, you are in the right place today. This is the Napa Community Animal Response Team new volunteer awareness training. My name is Dr. Claudia Sonder, and I am the president of the Napa CART. And just really appreciate you all taking time out of your beautiful Saturday to join us and learn a little bit more about the opportunities for new volunteers within Napa CART. Before we get too far into it, I thought we'd just take a moment, and for those of you that are not as familiar with Zoom, review a little bit of Zoom etiquette. We have a lot of wonderful material to get through today, and we've got a big group. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep you all muted, but we very much want to hear from you. And so we are going to just do a quick orientation. If you look down at the bottom of your screen, there should be a toolbar. And that toolbar on the very far left, you're going to see a microphone. That's a mute button. You'll see a way to start and stop your video. And if we can see your faces today, we'd love to see them. If you're a little shy, you can hop on and off, but we, for the most part, would really love to see you. You'll see a security icon, and then next to that, you'll see the number of participants that are on the call. We're heading from left to right here. You see there's 31 of us on here, so that's awesome. Next to that is that little gray chat icon that we're talking about, and that's where we're asking you to go ahead and enter your name now. And we'll have some questions and ask for some input along the way, and you can type into chat if you have questions or if you have comments or answers to questions that we're asking. We've got a share screen button, and shortly we'll have a presentation that we're going to share with you. And then to the far right of your toolbar is a reactions icon, and feel free to use that if you want to wave, if you want to give a thumbs up, anything. There's all sorts of options there as well. So as we get started, our goal for you today is to give you the 10,000-foot view of the Napa Community Animal Response Team, to understand the different opportunities for you as volunteers. And we want this to be interactive, so we've created time for questions and comments. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Actually, right before I do that, I want to introduce the two other board members of Napa CART. I'm the president, Sanan Kursin, here on the screen. Sanan, if you can say hello. She is our vice president, and she is our public information officer for the CART. And Sheila Edgington is our secretary and treasurer and shelter lead. So we have a board that is also pretty active within the CART. And you're going to get to meet the rest of our leaders as we go along and present to you the different areas where we do work in the field. Share screen. Okay, hold on one moment. We're going to have fun with our technology today. Try that one more time. This looks like it's not there. Give us one moment. If you need to pour yourself a coffee or grab something, we will be right back here. Let's see. Megan.
I was just pulling it up, so I can share it if you want. You just might have to watch out for people coming in and out.
I can do that, or we could have someone else share. Sorry, guys, we just...
Megan, I can admit people and keep a list of names if that would be helpful, if you'd like to do the slideshow.
Sure. Yeah, if you want to, that would be great. I think most everybody's here, so I think we're good. But sometimes
I'll just send you a
people
list. No
come in and
problem.
out.
Oh, wait,
Perfect.
someone else just admitted someone.
Yeah, I think that was me.
Okay, got it. All right, perfect. I'll take it
right.
over from here. Thanks.
Here we go. Okay, is that showing for everybody?
It is, and if you can put it in slideshow,
Mm-hmm.
that'd be great. So, so as you can see, you're in the right place, and we've had our technology glitch, so we should be able to trot on forward now. This image is from I believe this was the 2017 wildfires. We're walking animals out of a road that was burnt out. And as you'll see through the presentation here, there's all sorts of different activities and roles for you within the CART. Slide.
How do I advance it? Oh, there we go. I got it.
You got it. So we're way better in the field than we are with technology, so don't be panicked yet. So this slide, the main reason for this to put in front of you all is to make you realize that there are many different ways that we serve animals in disaster within Napa CART, and every incident is different. And so if you're someone that enjoys companion animals and wants to be in the shelter, working with dogs and cats, we've got a job for you. If you want to help, but you don't want to leave your home, we've got a job for you. If you're really good with data management and technology, but not as handy with animals, we have work. So I want you all to not worry about taking notes. Sit back, and as you watch the presentation, think about where you'd like to fit in or how you'd like to fit in to this organization. Okay, next slide. This is a little overview of what Napa CART does and gives you an idea of the different roles that you can have in our group. Looks like you need volume, Megan.
Did that help?
Looks like it's not playing the volume.
Okay, I can hear it on my end. Hold on.
We don't have to worry about that. Let's go to the next slide, and we'll fit this in at the end when we've got that uploaded. All right. So this slide is just to let you guys know what we have in store for you today. We have built in different areas of information. You're going to meet the different leaders that head up some of these areas of operation. We have a couple breaks. We have one at 2:25, and we have another break at 3:45. And we've left room in the presentation for questions. And so we're going to give you a little overview, go into some of the specific areas where we need volunteers, and give you a little idea of what's involved with each of those areas. And again, as you watch, if you have an area that you think you'll be interested in, we'll ask you at the end of that to input your name into the chat. And you're also going to learn a little bit more about our Better Impact volunteer management system, whereas it's another area where you as a volunteer can indicate your areas of interest to us, and then we can follow up with you on those areas. Next slide. As you can see, we have kind of an involved mission here in Napa County. We're working to educate folks, and we always say that we'll always save more animals through education than we ever will through evacuation. So if you're interested in joining our organization, one of the largest impacts you can have as a Napa CART volunteer is to reach out to your circle, make people aware of options to prepare themselves and their animals for disasters, and to let them know about Napa CART, turn them on to what we do and to what their resources are within the county. During a disaster, we assist emergency services, and we shelter, we evacuate, and we care for animals during disaster. We do provide ongoing training to all of you as volunteers and also to our community with all sorts of resources to enhance preparedness and provide tips for getting animals trained to be prepared. We always talk about our own preparedness, but we rarely talk about our animals. Are they ready? Have they been trained to do what you need them to do when it's time to leave? And we'll touch on that. And then our greatest mission, and you're all participating today, is to create a reserve of disaster service workers who can go out into the community and be part of the solution, integrated in with our first responders. Next slide. We do often in June have a public outreach event. June is Disaster Preparedness Month nationally, and so be looking for that. In the past, we gathered at Copia and we invited people in. In times of COVID, we've done it via Zoom. And we'll in just a little bit, we'll show you our training calendar, and that outreach event is to be announced, but we'd love you all to be involved. We're very involved with the community emergency response teams, or CERT, and we train with them and we respond with them, and you're going to learn a little bit more about that. And for those of you who haven't taken CERT training, I can tell you it's incredibly informative. When you finish that program, you look at your home in a whole different way, and your ability to be prepared and to know light first aid and to understand how to manage your home in a disaster is truly enhanced. So I encourage you all to take CERT training. We do participate as Napa CART in information booths at community events. And again, it's been a couple years since we've been able to do that. But our hope is, as the pandemic settles down, we can do more outreach. And again, if you're somebody that likes to interact with your community and be out there and talk about animals, we'd love your help with community outreach. We do have a really active social media program with Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and we are in need of some social media assistance, so we'll talk to you a little bit more about that. And one of the really fun things that we get to do in Napa CART is interact with the first responders and give them some hands-on training on how to be around animals during disasters, especially livestock, large animals. It's the rare first responder that has that kind of experience, so we have a wonderful relationship with our first responders in Napa. Next slide. Napa CART is really fortunate to work with an amazing community advisory board, and you can see some of these organizations up here on your screen. If you volunteer for any of these, go ahead and type your name into the chat. We really appreciate how hard these organizations work to enhance the health and welfare of animals in our community. And we meet with our community advisory board on a quarterly basis. We talk about events. We talk about ways we can help each other out. This group is always alerted when we have a disaster, and I can't tell you how much they help. It's a really wonderful, united group here in Napa, and we really appreciate these organizations and their support. Next slide. One of the other wonderful assets that Napa has is we have some pre-designated animal shelter locations, so that we, at a moment's notice, can open up an evacuation center and get animals from a place of harm to a place of safety. The Napa Valley Horsemen's Association, which is out on Foster Road, they've been a tremendous partner with us. They have a beautiful facility that's ideally suited to take in large numbers of animals in a short period of time. It's a defensible space. For those of you who have been out there and volunteered, it's really a great place for us to put horses. We can also put livestock on that property. Ag for Youth sits right next door to Napa Valley Horsemen's on the same address on 1200 Foster Road. And that program has been incredibly supportive of Napa CART, receiving livestock in the middle of the night, on the weekends, helping care for livestock. So we appreciate them very much. Valley Brook Equestrian Center is an English riding center that's off of El Centro Avenue in central Napa. Again, it's really nicely located, very defensible. Lots of paddocks there. So in many of our events, we've had to open both Napa Valley Horsemen's and Valley Brook at the same time to accommodate the number of horses coming in. The Napa County Animal Shelter is really the entity that oversees Napa CART, and during an emergency, they will take in evacuated animals to their capacity. But in certain situations, we will overwhelm their capacity, as in 2017, in which case we can get animals over to some of our auxiliary companion animal shelters, and we have set up before at Napa Valley College and also at Crosswalk Community Church. Next slide. Right now, there's some really beautiful regional collaboration going on with CARTs. As all of you know, each year we seem to see larger, more devastating fire events, and this has really enhanced the cooperation of CARTs across our state. The first icon that you see there is the North Valley Animal Disaster Group, or NAVDAG, and many of you have probably heard of NAVDAG or trained with NAVDAG. I always want to give them a real hats off, because Napa CART would not exist if NAVDAG had not been willing to share their resources with us, teach us. They continue to work with us, and they're really a top-notch organization. And in the last couple years, NAVDAG, Napa CART, Solano CART, and Sonoma CART have been working more and more to try and standardize training and give each other reciprocity for training. And you'll learn a little bit more about that. We also work with Rescue Fast. Gary Johnson down here is his logo at the bottom there. He does some wonderful fire line and all hazards awareness training. And if you're somebody that wants to get into our search and rescue, evacuation, or shelter in place teams, that's something that you're going to need to do is get some additional training. Next slide. During the course of your training with Napa CART, we do require that you take incident command training. And the incident command system was developed back in the 1970s in California to facilitate mutual aid. The size and scale of wildfires back then required that multiple agencies come together and speak the same language. And the incident command system allows any team to sort of upscale or downscale the management of that incident based on the size of the incident. And so we use the language that we learn in incident command, and it helps us as a CART to integrate in with our first responders and our second responders. And so you'll see part of the requirement for you all as new volunteers is to do some online training. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. How does incident command translate to us in Napa CART? Mostly, it reminds you that we have a span of control and a chain of command. And as a Napa CART volunteer, you will always have a supervisor, and you're reporting to that supervisor. And then that supervisor sends concerns or needs or requests up the chain of command. And it just simplifies communication such that you don't have duplication of effort and such that information doesn't get omitted. On our teams, we're going to follow span of control, so you're never going to see more than 7 people under one leader. And in incident command, you really need to be able to follow rules and protocols. So if you're not much of a rule follower, you might find that this is not the place for you, because we do have protocols that we follow that are tested through time, and we have a code of conduct that we ask our volunteers to read and understand that pertains to following rules and protocols. We always try to use plain language when we're communicating, minimal acronyms, no codes, so that we make sure that we're understanding the needs of each other and of the areas of operation that we're in. Next slide. This is an example of an incident command system chart. In our situation in Napa, we do work under Animal Services. Katie Ribardieri is the new director of the Napa County Animal Shelter, and she may pop in a little later and say hello. And so if I have an issue with Napa CART, I'm going to report to Katie, and then Katie is going to report up to the Office of Emergency Services to get us what we need. So there's a chain of command there. The one real inaccuracy of this slide is that the CERT teams really should be in green next to our CART. CERT and CART work together. We're very similar in what we do. The CART addresses the animals in disaster. The CERT is responding to the human needs within disaster, and they're our partners. And then under that, you can see we have our wonderful animal rescue groups, our veterinarians, our Horsemen's Association, and then the volunteers. We can't do this work without all of you. It takes a large number of trained volunteers to respond to the type of disasters that we have in Napa. And so we really, really appreciate what our volunteers bring to this organization. Next slide. This is our Napa CART incident command chart, and you'll start to learn about org charts a little bit as you take incident command training. And the beautiful thing about an organizational chart is it really tells you who's doing what. And when you look at this, our animal branch director, in most cases, that's going to be me. And under me, we're going to have a public information officer, that's Sonnen, and you'll learn a little bit more about what public information officers do. In an organization like this, it's very important that any media materials, any interviews, anything we put on social media needs to be approved by our public information officer. We have a safety officer, that's Jen Borgen. You'll hear from her a little later today. And the work that we do is dangerous, and we need to make sure that we're understanding the hazards involved, and that we're well informed, and that we know what to do if we see something that's unsafe. And so we do spend a lot of time in CART training focusing on safety. Our admin hero of Napa CART is Megan Van Kootren. Many of you have met her. She's our operations manager, and she's a very important part of my sort of core team as incident commander. And then underneath here, a very classic way that incident command is organized, and this is what makes it so useful, is you see that we have logistics, operations, planning, and finance. And pretty much any event that you organize in your own lives, you can use incident command to do. Do I have the logistics covered? Can I take care of all the people involved? Do I understand what the operations are? What do we need to achieve? Have I planned for those operations? Do I have enough data and information to conduct the work that we need to do? And do I have my paperwork and finances in order to make it happen? So those are the core brackets. Underneath that, you can see as Napa CART volunteers, you can become involved with animal search and rescue, and you're going to learn more about that. You can work with our volunteers. You can work in the shelters, either as companion animal volunteers or large animal volunteers. You can assist our veterinary team, or you can work in our communications division and work in hotline, dispatch, or radios. Next slide. So why do we do this? Why are we all here doing this important work? Hurricane Katrina in I think it was it 97, really taught us a hard lesson about the power of the human-animal bond and the problems trying to get people to evacuate and stay out of disaster zones when animals were left behind. And we know that when people don't have an option to get their animals out, or their animals are in danger, people will risk their own lives to go back in and try and help their animals, or they won't leave at all. And so one of the most compelling reasons for communities like Napa and for our leadership in Napa to support a community animal response team is that we give people an option for their animals. We get animals out of harm's way, and that vastly improves compliance with evacuation, and it reduces the number of people that are going to go back in and put themselves at risk and put first responders at risk. I know most of you here understand what animals do for you in your lives. The healing power of the human-animal bond is really amazing. And when people can reunite with their animals after a disaster, it brings them back into the moment, it gives them hope, and it really enhances a community's ability to recover. And all of us here can share stories of watching people reunite with their animals after fire. And it's really, quite honestly, the reason we all do this work. It's an incredible thing what animals do for people. And you're here today, so we know that you already know that. Next slide. Napa CART's been very busy in the last several years. We've had 9 different responses, and you can see here the average length of an incident is up to 18 days. So that's those can be lengthy. If you look at the picture on the right, that's the campfire. That's the Gridley Fairgrounds. There were thousands of animals up there. And lower right, that was the LNU fire. If you look at that slide, the LNU is exploding in the back there, and those animals are out of harm's way already at the shelter. And so we've been busy, we've learned a lot, we've shared our lessons with the other CARTs, and we continue to learn. No two incidents are the same. Next slide. If you're looking to, as a volunteer, to understand your role, you realize that there's all sorts of opportunities for you. This is a list of some of the areas where we really need help. And again, you don't need to have animal experience. There's many jobs in the CART that require administrative roles, technology roles, and even just getting errands done for us. So we need you. Next slide. Great shot here of some of our volunteers out there in the hot sun loading up livestock panels. We do have the ability to shelter hundreds of horses thanks to the generous donation of multiple organizations to get us these livestock panels, and sometimes we need to move them. So as a volunteer, you might be asked to do physical work. You might be asked to care for these 2 horses up there on the right. These guys were so funny. They were best friends, and our volunteers really enjoyed getting to know them. So you'll meet some amazing animals, and you'll have an opportunity for some really wonderful teamwork. Next slide. All right, Megan, you are up.
All right. So my name is Megan Van Kutren, and as Claudia mentioned, I'm the operations manager for Napa CART. So for Napa CART, our goal for all our volunteers is for them to become disaster service workers. And I'll go into a little more detail about what is involved with that. But beyond the general qualifications for disaster service worker, there's then different areas that you might find that you're more suited for or that are more interesting to you. And so this just kind of shows, a couple of different areas that you may be more interested in. And then within animal search and rescue, the one on the bottom, there are another subset of areas because that's a big group and takes a lot of different moving parts. So we've got some more specialized areas within search and rescue. Again, for the general qualifications to become certified for Napa CART as an animal disaster service worker, the first part is actually going to be taken care of today because you're attending the volunteer training that we offer. That is a required training. We have another one tomorrow for our returning members. And then if you've been able to figure out a login and set up a profile for Better Impact, there is a volunteer liability release form that's in there. And if you can get that signed, then you've checked off another item. As Claudia mentioned earlier, there's Cert Training. And that one's a little more lengthy of a requirement, but it's really important. And it is a 20-hour course. They've been doing it mostly virtual for the last year or so. with COVID, but prior to that, it was, you know, like a classroom setting, and then there's a hands-on portion too. A couple other requirements. We have our FEMA courses. FEMA has a whole list of online courses. The main ones for disaster service workers are FEMA 100 and FEMA 200. And those can be done at any time. You just go on to the site. When you've completed it, then you get a certification, and you can upload that into your Better Impact profile to show that you've done it. Once you get through all those different things, then we can send you a invitation to complete a background check. And all these items are required per our MOU with Napa County. So once we can show that you completed all that, then we can get you actually sworn in. There's a process to get you sworn in so that you're official. And again, if you do any trainings, even if it's other trainings beyond just these ones for disaster service workers, those can get uploaded into Better Impact. So the Cert Training, it's like Napa CART basically, but Napa CART's focus is on animals, and Cert is a little more focused just on community members as a whole. It teaches, you know, great disaster response skills, search and rescue, preparedness. It's really just for anybody, just even as a community member or a homeowner or a member of a family. It's good to have some of these skills because you never know when you might find yourself in a position of needing to use them. Cert has their own, they have a site on Napa County's website, and they have all their trainings listed there. So this is just a little screenshot showing their various trainings for the year. You can go on there to get the general Cert training to sign up for that. And then they have various other things that they offer too. So again, once you can become, you know, integrated with Napa CART, hopefully become a disaster service worker, then you can start to find the area that is of most interest to you. Hotline is a big area. I actually did a lot of hotline work in 2020 for our responses there. So we need a strong team for that. We do have a training specific to hotline in July. You'll notice here that we have it noted in military time, and you'll see sometimes things noted in military time and things not noted in that. We're just trying to get everybody kind of acclimated when we do have an incident that we're responding to. A lot of times on our forms that we're filling out, we use military time just to reduce confusion about AM or PM, because shifts can go all day long. So anyway, back to hotline, there's training coming up. And then in addition to that, through Better Impact, we have a series of online training. Some of that is Shelterly, which is a really neat program that has been developed for not just hotline, actually. It helps with shelter and some other areas of disaster response, but it's a kind of database that multiple people can be entering information on, and you can track the movement of animals, and it's really helpful. So we're excited for that. Another area of interest might be livestock sheltering. With our past deployments, you know, we've had hundreds of large animals in multiple sites, and we need a lot of qualified people to help in those sites. So we do have certain qualifications, and, you know, want to make sure everybody's trained and we keep everybody safe. We do have our livestock sheltering training in June. And then there's a animal handling and vitals also in June. There's also home study courses through Better Impact. So we've got a lot of different ways that you can learn more about livestock sheltering and find out if that's a good fit for you and if that's interesting to you. Companion animal sheltering, again, you know, depending on the scope of the incident, we need a lot of help here. And so there's our companion animal sheltering training this year will take place at the Napa County Animal Shelter on June 4th. And then again, there's home study that you can do on your own time through Better Impact. And then animal search and rescue, again, is a really big part of what we do. There's a lot of different roles to fill within that, that branch, and a lot of different required training, because this is designed for the people that, you know, are going out into the field and collecting all these animals, you know, bringing them to the shelter, all that. So we definitely need to make sure that whoever we're sending out there has gone through the required training, has animal handling skills, is physically capable to do some of these arduous tasks that need to be done. And then for animal search and rescue, we do require fire line safety and all hazards. Those are taught by Gary Johnson with Rescue Fast. And we encourage that for really anybody that's involved, but definitely for animal search and rescue. The animal search and rescue training will be July 9th. We have a hauling certification. So if you have a truck and trailer, if you're interested in hauling, if you've got some hauling experience, you can get certified for Napa CART on June 25th. We will have a drill. We don't have a specific date listed because it'll be kind of a surprise drill, and that'll be in August. And again, like everything else, there's online study through BI or Better Impact. And then, let's see. Okay, and then within animal search and rescue, like I said, there's a bunch of different areas that you can get more involved. We are looking for transport technicians, and whether that's someone that knows how to drive a truck and trailer and can get certified for driving, or we also need people that can just drive, you know, maybe a scout vehicle and can go with a ASAR team to carry supplies or whatnot. So there's various people that we need to fill those roles. Vehicle inspection is required for all drivers. So any vehicle that's going into areas behind roadblocks, behind fire lines, needs to be, we need to know that it's a good working vehicle, and we don't want anybody to break down out there. Within ASAR 2, there's dispatch and communications, you know, between our teams, between the home base. We need radio operators to, you know, provide communications. And so this is an area that we could use help. There's a couple of different, well, there's the dispatch training in July. There's home study through Better Impact. And then we do work closely with Cert, because they do have a lot of radio operators. And so a lot of their members will team up with our members and work together out in the field. Here's just kind of all our training dates for 2022. I will when we are done with all this training, I'll send everybody a copy of our training schedule so you can have that to refer to. It's also all listed on our website. But today, after today's training, and until about June, there's not a whole lot of training going on with Napa CART, but we hope everybody can take that time to do their all hazards training with Rescue Fast, do their fire line safety with Rescue Fast, go through the home study courses in Better Impact. And then when we start up again in June, those trainings will, should be, hopefully, all in person. And so we'll be able to do more hands-on, it'll be more interactive, and we look forward to being able to actually be together with everybody. Claudia, do you want to jump in on this one?
Yes, yes. So again, one of the things that we touched on in our introduction was that the North Valley Animal Disaster Group, Solano, Sonoma, and Napa are now working for reciprocity with training. So if you're training with Napa CART or you start training with Napa CART, much of the work that you're doing with us will be accepted by those other orgs. So should we be required or requested for mutual aid in another county, these counties are all working together. And so the fire line safety and all hazards is accepted by all 4 organizations as long as it's delivered by an approved trainer of the county. So if we're using Gary Johnson with Rescue Fast, but when you do complete that training with us, that will be accepted by these other CARTs should you decide to join them as well or go for mutual aid with them. We are requiring all hazards and fire line every 2 years. Solano County is requiring it yearly. So you'll see sometimes there are small variations in that, depending on what you're learning. Hauling certification, if you become certified in Napa, that will be accepted in Solano and Sonoma. We're working with NAVDAG on that, and it is likely that NAVDAG will also accept our hauling certification. One of the real win-wins of becoming involved with the Better Impact platform that you're all going to become more familiar with is that all of these organizations listed here are using Better Impact to manage volunteers. And that gives us the ability to really align much of the training and much of the qualifications and certifications. So sometimes it'll seem like a little bit of extra work to be on BI, but it pays off in huge dividends as far as our ability to help our neighbors and for them to help us. Hotline training with Shelterly, that's going to be accepted by NAVDAG if you do it here in Napa, or vice versa. If you already have done that, completed with that with NAVDAG, we'll accept it. The new volunteer training that you're doing right now, if you've completed that, that will be accepted by Sonoma, and vice versa. We'll accept Sonoma's new volunteer training. All of the trainings that you'll see on your BI impact are accepted by all of the organizations. So if you complete those for Napa, you have completed them for the other ones. And we're working with our BI admins right now to make sure that that happens in those systems. We're going to get our BI admins together for these organizations and make sure that if you answer the test questions correctly in one area, that is going to translate. Animal handling classes, you're going to find that different orgs have different hands-on animal handling classes, and we always prefer for those types of trainings to be done in person. So we will accept any animal handling class done regionally. And really our goal as we work together year after year is to align our disaster service worker process. And that's going to probably change a little bit for Napa CART, such that by attending this training session in the future, you'd be sworn in at the end of this training session, and that would enable you to right away go to work in either hotline, admin, or companion animal. And if you were going to be working with livestock or going out in the field, deployed in the field, that would require additional training. So stay tuned for that. Next slide.
Okay. Just wanted to touch a little bit too about our social media policies. Our kind of general rule of thumb is especially if you're on an ASAR team, just stay off of social media as much as you can. We definitely don't want someone to find out some devastating news because, one of our members maybe shared something on Facebook. Social media can be a powerful tool, so we definitely want to share, what we're doing and help maybe reunite animals. But we do have a public information officer and a social media specialist that can help with all that. So any pictures that you may take or want to take or think might be important, they just need to be run through our public information officer. In each incident, there are a lot of, happy stories, happy endings, reunifications, and a lot of feel-good stories that actually do come out of these incidents. And I think it's important to share those, but we have to be careful about how we do so. And along those lines too, when ASAR's going out into the field, a lot of times they are actually asked or encouraged to take pictures of some of the animals that we can send to owners. But we want to make sure that we do that in a close-up kind of setting and avoid revealing backgrounds. You don't want to take a big panorama picture and show, multiple houses that have been destroyed or had damage. And when we do take those pictures, any feel-good pictures that we might want to share, we do want to make sure that we have permission from the owner as well to be able to share that. One important thing too that we'd like to illustrate, I guess, is not taking selfies. It can send the wrong message about, what we're doing and why we're there and what our focus is. Instead, we would recommend maybe commenting on a Napa CART post. If you want to be able to show that you were part of a team and you were there, you can see one of the Napa CART posts and then comment on it. It's great to be part of this team and show that you were, part of the rescue effort.
Megan, in the interest of time, why don't we forward through this and we'll get to Jen, and then we can touch on this in other trainings. Some of these.
Perfect.
Beautiful. There we go.
Great. Thank you very much for being here, new volunteers. My name is Jen. I am the overall safety officer, but this particular training is more about giving you an overview of what kind of safety things that you need to look out for. So next slide, please. Okay, this is what we're going to dwell on here for just a moment. And this is probably the single most important safety slide that there is. And that hopefully that symbol on the bottom will help you to remember it. But at any rate, what kind of safety things would we be worried about on a team like this? Well, we're going to go through some stuff to show you that. But first off, let's figure out what this equation is right here, the safety algorithm. First off, an algorithm is nothing more than a set of rules that you follow in a problem-solving operation. Well, that's certainly what you're doing when you go out there and try to bring animals from a place of danger to a place of safety. You're solving some big problems on the fly. So we have to have a way, an equation, so to speak, to make sure that that mission is going to be accomplished if we can do it. So a lot of people have trouble with this. They look at that and they say, well, wait a minute. Animals are last, they're on the bottom. I thought that's what we were here for. True. However, the only way that we're going to get to the animals, the only way that we're going to get to that point is if we follow this algorithm. Here it goes. Personal safety always comes first. Again, this is very hard for a lot of us. We tend to think of everybody and everything else first. But if we do not think of ourselves first in this scenario, guess what? You have just kneecapped your entire team because now they have to take care of you. And that means that none of us are going to get a chance to take care of the animals, which is why we are there. So I think you can see how this plays out, right? You don't want to become a disaster within a disaster because you're not following this particular algorithm. So it goes to follow that you're going to look out for your team and others next for that same reason. If we can't keep everybody pulling on the same rope in the same direction safely, then we're never going to get to the animals. And finally, when it's time to take some actions, how we handle the situation, that's when we finally get down to why we are there, the animals. All right, next slide, please. So this is a great slide. Let's take a look at that. What could possibly go wrong? There's a lot happening here. I love the fact that this slide is a little blurry because I think this is probably what it looks like in reality to some people in a stressful situation. The edges get a little blurry. Maybe we get some tunnel vision. But of all the things going on here, I think that very few people in this slide are actually looking out for the safety algorithm. Take a look at the guy in the white shirt standing inside the trailer. Anybody see a problem with that? How about the guy in the hat? Do you think he's thinking of the guy in the white shirt, or is he focused on that horse? And it's kind of instructive to see where everybody's looking in this photo. Everybody's looking at the horse, not looking out for their own safety, not looking out for their team members' safety. So obviously we've got the wrong focus here. So let's find out what to do about it. Next slide, please. Well, first off, you do have to use your imagination in these things. And what I mean by that is that all of us who have been around animals know that they can be unpredictable. The most domesticated animal can act unpredictably. But you put an animal under stress, any animal, and all bets are off, right? It just means that anything could happen. So how in the world are we going to handle a situation like that? Well, you've got to imagine all the things that could happen that you might not normally think of in relationship to your average horse, goat, cat, dog, you name it. So what can we do to decrease the stress? Are we going to be able to accurately identify hazards, and how can we reduce some of those hazards? And how do we get a hold of resources if we need them? And are we thinking about what resources we might actually need? And finally, this thing about stopping, okay, that's right up there with the safety algorithm. It's really hard to do. You get started in something, you get started in an operation where you're trying to trailer an animal or something like that. It is really hard because we're invested now. We've started, we've got a thing going on. But as things start going south or they just simply become unsafe, sometimes knowing when to stop is the most important thing. All right, next slide. So here's another great photo. And here you have some very professional people who are doing a very professional job of the thing called situational awareness. They are keeping the problem in the box instead of trying to have a lot of people controlling different levers and making things happen that maybe aren't the safe way to do it. They're taking their time, they're thinking it through, they're looking around. So here's the thing, situational awareness is more than just a fancy couple of words to say, oh, you just have to know what's going on around you, right? I just got to know what the situation is. Well, it's a little deeper than that. In fact, I'm going to give you a better definition for it. And I want you to really think about this, and especially in the context of that first slide we saw with those folks trying to load the wild beast, all right? So situational awareness is your perception of elements around you in time and space, okay? So everything around you, not only in terms of where they are, but when they are, and how your understanding of how those elements are about to affect your immediate future. Well, the guy in the white t-shirt in that one slide might have a real problem in the immediate future, not to mention a few others. So those folks clearly had not received training in situational awareness. All right, next slide, please. Now, we can't do a 30-second slide to train you properly in situational awareness. I promise there will be more training to come, especially when you're actually working in the field. But let's take a real quick look here at what this process is. And you can see that the idea is that it's a program that should be running in the background in your brain at all times. Most of this stuff came about from police and fire and other disaster responders as a means of always staying aware and not following into the trap of complacency. Well, the type of work that we do out there with those unpredictable animals under stress certainly puts us in the category of needing to be constantly assessing and reassessing risk in the context of where things are happening and when they're happening. So here's 4 ways, just the bare bones basics of how to deal with this. And this is a skill that's learned over a long period of time. No one expects you to look at this slide and go, got it. A little more complicated than that. So how about taking a look at the scene? It's more than just a size up, although you're going to do that too. You're going to say, what do things look like right now? But your brain should also be thinking, well, wait a minute, what could change? What could change in this scene in the time that we're going to be here? Have I thought about escape routes? How can I tone down noise and lights and movement? And what's the risk to people and animals? If there's an animal injured, there's a whole bunch of things that come into play, including what your options are and how to handle it. In earthquakes, what about things like gas leaks? Yikes. Just keep evaluating that situation. And how about a plan? Well, you got to have a plan, but you also need plan B, plan C, plan D. I'm serious about this one. It's more than just having a plan and then being able to walk away from it if it doesn't work. And most importantly, what's that exit plan? We want the exit plan in place before any other plan is. And then, of course, the resources. Have we got the skills to do this? We got the right gear? Do we need some sedation here? Is the animal too injured? Maybe a vet? All that stuff should come into play and have a realistic view of what you and the resources you currently have with your team are, so that you can evaluate whether or not this mission that you're trying to accomplish is actually doable in the first place. All right, next slide. So a safety officer, as we heard a little bit earlier in the ICS portion, is someone who has, that's their whole job, is to look after the safety of the different operations. And that could come in all the different operations that we knew, not just ASAR. It can also come in with the shelters, small animal shelters. Just everybody has different safety perspectives that they have to keep in mind. So that means that each team, whether it's a shelter team or an ASAR team, is going to have a designated safety officer. But don't worry, as a new volunteer, nobody's going to come up and say, tag, you're it, and then you're expected to know all this stuff. It comes with time, and we recognize that. And hopefully with the mentorship of experienced volunteers, you will become comfortable in that role. Next slide, please. So even though that there's a safety officer assigned to the overall ICS, you now know that safety is everybody's responsibility because of what? That safety algorithm. And that's the one I want you to really, keep in the back of your mind. It's not too hard because it's not too long, but it is your problem solver. Look out for number 1 first, because you have to. And then your team, because by gosh, you should, right? And then we look after the animals. All right, folks, we'll move on to the next slide.
We're going to pause here for a sec. Sexual harassment is something that we do need to talk about, and we have a very firm policy within Napa CART. We have no tolerance for any behavior that might threaten or make a workplace uncomfortable. So open policy: if you see something, say something, talk to your supervisor if you're feeling harassed in any way. And we do, again, have a volunteer manual and code of conduct for you all to take a look at. It's on our website, and we'll make sure that you have a link to it as well. But it's an important issue to address. Next slide. Right, we are at the time of our break. So I suggest that we go ahead and take a break here. We're supposed to be back. Why don't you take about a 7-minute break if you can and come on back, and then we'll address any questions real quick before we start our next session. So pour yourself some coffee and we'll see you in about 7 minutes. Thank you so much. Megan, if you want to unshare for a minute, we'll see if we can solve our technological difficulties. Thank you.
Megan, can you hear me at the moment?
Yep.
One of the people would like us to put that situational awareness slide up during the break, if that's possible. If not,
can you say that one more time?
Oh, someone in the chat room here was asking if we could put the situational awareness slide back up during the break.
Oh, okay. I can try that. We're trying to switch computers of who's doing the screen share, but once we get that back up, we'll try to get that slide up. Thank you.
Megan, can you make me a co-host?
And she's
yes. Where are you? Oh, there you are. Okay.
Megan, can you see that okay? Is that shared?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Can you take it back to the situational awareness slide? Yep. Someone was asking to view that during the break here.
That one?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, we call that the SRPR. It's a way to remember it. What's the SRPR? And run that through your head when you arrive on a scene. Thanks. Yeah, I can catch up. those of you that have been chat monitors, do we have questions that came into the chat? Alan, looks like you're muted. We don't have to raise the questions yet. I just want to prepare. They'll be back in about 2 minutes. Do we have some questions?
There is. Well, once you put the situational awareness slide up during the break, please.
Yep, we got that.
Okay. Regarding a list of trainings we need to go through, is the list on the CART website, or can we be sent this list?
We'll cover that on BI.
For next question, for the areas we are looking to volunteer with, who do we reach out to?
Perfect, we'll cover that.
And that's it so far.
Okay.
Been very quiet until you put up the questions, the question screen. You might want to mention to them that they can, if they have a question during the middle of the thing, if they want to put it up, they can put it up, and we'll see if somebody can jump on there and answer it for them.
Will do. All right, everybody, about 1 more minute, and then we'll start back up. All righty, it's 2:37, and I think that we should keep going here. We did have some questions come into the chat, which we reviewed during the break. And again, I want to encourage you guys to use the chat as you need to. The questions that came in were great, and they're questions that we're going to cover in the next few minutes in our materials. So we'll keep going here to stay on time. I'm going to move forward to the next slide. And we're going to talk a little bit about what happens when there is an incident in Napa County, so that you all have some feel as volunteers of what happens, how are you deployed, how will you be notified. So Napa County is really an exceptional county as far as its degree of preparedness and its ability to get us the information ahead of time to spool up. So usually we have a 3-stage notification system within the county. They're going to issue us an alert. And in some cases, they'll let us know when a red flag alert is coming. So we'll be aware of that before the general community is aware of that. We will let you guys all know if a red flag day has been declared, and then we have a red flag day routine that we ask you to follow as volunteers. And you'll see that by Facebook, you'll see that by email. And it's really just a way to get you ready, get your property and your animals ready, so that if we call you, you can get yourself and your animals out of harm's way and then come to work. So alert is the first stage. Prepare means that it's very likely that we're going to be deployed and that we're going to need people. And in that case, we're asking you to have your go bags by the door to indicate your availability through Better Impact and through email. And then a deploy is an all hands on deck. And we need you, and here's where we need you. If you look at this slide, I do love it. It's true. If we're always ready, we don't have to get ready. And one of the many gifts I believe that Napa CART gives to us all is it allows us all to be so well prepared with our own situation that we can get our animals squared away and help other people. And so it's really a good lesson in preparedness. Next slide. Oh, that's me. See? So this is just a little sort of diagram of what happens. Sonnen or myself will get a call from the county OES or from the sheriff's office that we need to go to work. We will let our leadership know and our advisory board know that there's been a deployment request. Our leaders will then reach out to all of you who will have indicated through your BI profile where your areas of interest are or where you'd like to go to work as a volunteer. And if you have if you've accomplished your training and you've done your online study and you've met your qualifications for those areas, then we will have you go to work. As new volunteers, we're going to try and pair you up with experienced volunteers so that you can have the support you need and so that you can learn with people who have been there before. For those of you that are going to help us evacuate animals, if you've gone through hauling certification, if Alan has all of your forms and you've passed our hauling inspection in our obstacle course, your name will be added to a hauling nixle. And for those of you who know what nixle is, Napa County tends to put out text alerts, nixle alerts, and there is one specifically queued up for Napa CART, and it would say something like, all Napa CART haulers report to the Nob Hill grocery store for staging for the whatever fire it is. And then you would load up your rig, make sure that you've done your inspection, head over and wait for further instructions. And then volunteers, you're going to be called in by your leaders, depending on what you have expressed interest in. And when we notify you, it's going to be through multiple modalities. So don't get frustrated. You might get a nixle, you might get a WhatsApp, you might get an email. And the reason for that is that we've learned the hard way through our different incidences that in these large scale events or big wind events, we can have our main infrastructure go down. If you'll remember in 2017, in the northern part of the Napa Valley, we had no internet, we had no cell phone capability. Actually, the only thing that worked, oddly, was WhatsApp and email. So we were all checking emails to try and get everybody deployed. When you do get activated, usually what we're asking is, are you available? When can you be here? We will have you sign up for certain shifts on through BI, and you're going to learn more about that in a minute. We don't want to hear from you if you can't come. And I know that's frustrating. I know that many of you will want to be there, but have something else to do. That's not the time to chime in. We only want to hear from you if you can come. And certainly you'll see opportunities on BI to sign up for later shifts, and we encourage you to do that. We're going to teach you how to fill out a 214 form, and the 214 form is sort of a universal form that all counties use to track volunteer hours. So at the moment you're deployed, you're going to start your 214, and we're going to have you actually photograph your odometer and the time that you leave for your deployment. And then your 214, you're going to track what you do throughout the day with time and mileage. And we encourage you to develop a go bag if you don't already have one. Napa CART has some great resources on our website that with lists for a good go bag. The Halter Fund is also a great resource. They've got a great website. It's the acronym HALTER. Julie Atwood is, I think, on this training today, and they also have some great resources for packing an excellent go bag and what you should have in that bag. What should you wear when you're deployed? We have to be prepared for anything, so we need sturdy work shoes, no open-toed shoes, long pants. They need to be cotton or wool if you're headed out into the field, sun hat, gloves, sunglasses, Napa CART attire. If you are CERT, we need your CERT vest on and your ID. and a helmet. If you have an ID, you will receive a Napa CART ID once you've been sworn in as a disaster service worker and you've completed all your training. If you're going out into the field, we have personal protective equipment that's been donated to us that we will supply you with. And as long as COVID-19 is an issue, we're going to comply with county mandates for masking and social distancing. All right. As far as volunteer coordination, we are very much dependent on our volunteers, and we need the ability to get information out to our volunteers during an event. You're going to hear from Lisa Towell shortly. She is our BI administrator, and she is the one that does all of the important work during what we call peacetime when we're not deployed. She helps to make sure that you all have what you need and you're supported as you're doing your online training. But during wartime or when we're deployed, we do need additional volunteer coordinators. And these were the other tasks that are involved. It's making sure that when we get to join each other again in person, that we're tracking who shows up to the trainings and that our volunteers have what they need and what we're answering questions for them. We're making sure that we're getting our shift lists to our leaders. We're tracking and managing our volunteer statistics. So if you're somebody that's interested in doing some volunteer coordination, or if you have experience with that, please type your name into the chat now, and just you can type your first name and then a dash and BC, and we'll reach back out to you because we sure do need some help in this area. Oftentimes when an incident starts, we have a lot of help, but then as the incident goes on, we find ourselves in need of volunteers down the road. So we have sort of a policy that we do 3 days on and 3 days off, and that helps us to recharge. It gives us that important continuity. Being on for 3 days, you get really good at what you do, and then you got to unplug, get yourself back into a state of rest and functioning. And we don't want people working too long. It can affect your ability to stay safe and keep your teammates safe. And again, these deployments will go on for weeks at a time. With that, I'd like to hand it over to Lisa Towell. She is our Better Impact Administrator, and she's going to give you an overview of how Better Impact works and how you can understand what sort of training you need to take for your area of interest. Here you go, Lisa.
Thanks for that, Claudia. Hi, everybody. So I'm just going to give you a quick tour of all the features that you'll be using in Better Impact. And I'm going to go through it pretty fast. So don't worry if you don't catch everything. I've got some written documentation with screenshots that you can refer to, and I'll show you how to access that at the end. Slide, please. So for anybody new to Better Impact, it's our new volunteer management software. Works on your computer or on your phone, and it's being used by now many animal disaster groups in California. Slide. And it does a whole bunch of stuff, but the highlights are you manage all your own info here, your contact info, your training certificates, your emergency contact, all of that goes in the system. You can see all the training that you need to do and which teams you've qualified for. And you can sign up for stuff, trainings and shifts in an incident. Next slide. And for anyone who's wondering why we're making this change to Better Impact right now from our old spreadsheet system, the CART's getting bigger, incidents are getting more complicated, we're doing more mutual aid, and we're getting training standards starting to emerge across the state of California. So Better Impact is going to help Napa CART manage all of that complexity. And bonus benefit, it's going to take some load off our intrepid volunteer coordinator, Megan. So huge benefits. Next slide. So let me jump right into the tour. So the first thing that you'll do, if you haven't already, is create a new profile for yourself in Better Impact. So if you go to the Napa CART website, napacart.org, to the volunteer menu and you pick volunteer application, it's circled there, and hit on that honking big red volunteer application button. That's your link, and just follow the instructions. It's really simple, doesn't take that long to set up a profile. Slide. And this is what the login page looks like. So after you've set up your profile, you go to myimpactpage.com. So you'll want to bookmark that and enter your username and password. Slide. And then this is the home page for Better Impact. So a lot of the things you're going to be using are in the My Profile menu, kind of on the right side there. So first we're going to look at your contact information. Slide. So it looks like this. So this is where you can update your email, your phone number, etc. And a couple of requests for everybody. We'd like you all to upload a photo here. So you can see where it's circled on the screen. It says update photo. So please put something there. I know there's a huge temptation to put that super cute picture of you with a pig. I know I live for that, but it would be more ideal to put kind of a passport style picture, a close-up of your face, so that your team leads and the other volunteers can get to know what you look like, especially since we don't have as much time to meet in person in the time of COVID. And then in the bottom right, please do go ahead and check those privacy settings. It basically means that your name and picture will be visible to leads and other volunteers. Slide. So the next thing we're going to look at, also My Profile menu, is additional info. Slide. And that looks like this. It's a long scrolling page with all the stuff that you can upload. So very important for you to fill out the code of conduct and the liability release. So they're right at the top of the page. You just check those little boxes. You can read the text by clicking on those little red eye icons. Page. And as you scroll down, you'll see there's some places to upload your training certificates. So for example, this is your FEMA certificates go here. So you just click on that choose file button and it will allow you to choose a file off your computer. And then you just hit the upload file and off you go. One little caveat is be sure to click the save button in Better Impact often when you're uploading files, since there is a size limit on the amount of stuff you can upload at once. So just trying to save everybody from the hassle of trying to upload 17 different files at the same time and then realizing that you're getting an error message. Slide. So next is the interests page, also in My Profile. Slide. And this is what Claudia was talking about before. This is the place where you can just click on the different boxes for all the teams that you're interested in participating in. And it is really important that you do this, because this is going to give us a great way for team leads to reach out to you and talk to you about training plans for the year, additional optional trainings you might want to participate in. So really important to do this. Slide. So the next thing we're going to look at also in My Profile is the qualifications page. Slide. So this is kind of read only for your purposes. There's nothing you can edit here. This is the place to come to understand what is required to be a member of each team, and then what training you need to do in support of your membership in the team. So let's say that I was interested in the livestock shelter. So I look down the list. Yep, there's Team Livestock Shelter. So I'm going to click on that little red eye icon for the info box. Slide. And this big box comes up with a list of everything that I have to do in order to be considered an approved member of the livestock shelter team. So tons of detail. I'm not going to go through it now, but this is where you go for all that information about, okay, well, what training do I need to have to get approved for this team? Slide. And one of the things in that box said that you need to do the livestock shelter specific training. And to find out exactly what that training is for this year, you just scroll on down to where it says training livestock shelter, that's circled there, and you hit that same little eye icon for the info box. And here's the list of all the stuff that you need to do. So there's a couple of in-person trainings that you can attend, and there's some self-study trainings that are inside Better Impact, and I'll show you how to do those in a minute. But there is your detailed list of everything that you need to do before June. Slide. Next, let me step over and show you how to sign up for things in Better Impact. So you use the opportunities menu for that. There's a list and a calendar view. It doesn't really matter which one. So let's go into the list view slide and scroll down a bit, slide. And you'll see a list of all the things that are available for you to sign up for. So let's say I want to sign up for the Livestock Shelter Skills Training. So I just click on that text. It's actually a link, slide. And now I've got a box that's just about that training. So I can read some text at the top there about what the training involves. And then right down at the bottom of the screen, there's the detailed information for signing up. And I literally just click on the sign up button. It's that easy. If I want to know who else is taking this training, I can click on that little who icon there and I can see a list of names. So if you want to, do trainings with your friends or whatever, it's all right there, slide. And then once I've signed up, I can go to the schedule tab and see what things I'm signed up for. So great, now I've signed up for the Livestock Shelter Skills Training. I see it there in my list. And if I click on that little eye icon again, slide, I've got some detailed information about the training. And now because I'm signed up, I'll see either the address for the training or the Zoom link if it's an online training. So that's really helpful. This is where you can go to get all those details about how to attend the training. Slide. So let me talk about those self-study trainings I mentioned before. So that's back in the My Profile menu. You just click on training and you see this. There's a long list of trainings and you click on the take button in order to take the training, slide. And you'll see something like this. So there'll be a video just right there, so you can watch the video right there inside Better Impact. And when you're done watching the video, there's a little quiz, just multiple choice that you can take, just 5 questions or so, really straightforward. And when you pass the quiz, slide, you will automatically get a qualification in Better Impact for completing that training. So this is a section of the qualifications page, and you can see for that self-study training, I've got completed now showing up in the column. So basically in the qualifications, if that column to the right of all the little eye icons, if that column is empty, you don't have any qualification for that thing. And as soon as some text appears in there like this completed, then that's how you know that you've got that qualification. Slide. So just a few quick questions that I've been hearing from people. If you're brand new to Better Impact and are kind of like, oh, I don't know how to do any of this stuff, then you'll want to refer to that written instructions document. And I'll show you in just a second how to access that on the Napa CART website. Also, please feel free to email me at betterimpact@napacart.org. If you're struggling with something, please don't beat your head against a wall. Just drop me a quick email and I'll help you sort it out. For those of you that use your phones mainly rather than your computers, almost all of these tasks with Better Impact can be done on your phone. And the instructions document has all the info that you need to do to install that app. And then I know some of you may volunteer with other carts that are also using Better Impact. And there is a way, if you're wondering, to merge your profiles together so that you have everything under a single username and password. And that's also covered in the instructions document slide. So in order to get to that instructions document, just go to napacart.org. In the volunteer menu, pick current volunteers, and right down at the bottom there, it's circled in yellow. It says Napa CART Better Impact Training. Just click on that and you'll get a downloadable PDF document that tells you how to do all of these things I've been talking about with screenshots to sort of help you remember where things are located. Slide. So just to sum it all up in a single slide, here's what we need you to do to be ready in Better Impact for the 2022 season. Please create your new profile if you haven't done it already. Log in and fill out your personal information, including signing the liability release. And that's in My Profile Additional Info. Tell us about your interests. Sign up for the upcoming trainings. And we'd like to have everybody get this done in the next 2 weeks. So you have until February 13th. And again, email me if you're having trouble with doing any of that. So I'll hand it back to Claudia, who is going to carry on with Hotline.
Thank you so much, Lisa. And again, we're here for you. If you're not is technologically inclined and you need some help, just let us know and we're happy to get you through it. One of the potential roles that you can have within Napa CART is to be a hotline operator. And this is really an extremely important sort of front of the house job, meaning that when people are in trouble and they need their animals out, or they've had to leave and they've left animals behind, you are the person that is going to pick up that phone, that is going to solve that problem for them. And if you're somebody that's good on the phone, if you can remain calm when things are getting worried, or if you can de-escalate people well, this is a great job for you. This is something you can do from your home. We're able to go through Ring Central to allow multiple users to pick up the hotline at one time. And again, if this job description seems appealing to you as a way to help Napa CART but stay home, please type your name into the chat and we will have the hotline lead get back in front of you to answer some of your questions about this. When we're working hotline, we have a couple of forms that we use to track our callers and make sure that we are getting all the information that we need. We call ours a Request for Animal Services, or RAS. It's a form you'll get used to. We keep a register of the calls that are coming in. We keep a 214. Again, we're monitoring our time and how we're using our time. And anyone who wants to do hotline needs to understand how our Shelterly platform works. And Shelterly is an app that's been developed by the North Valley Animal Disaster Group that tracks an animal from that first call to reunification. And Shelterly, it requires data entry and it requires training, which you can do on your BI platform. And these are some of the examples of some of the forms that we're going to use when we're working hotline, with that Shelterly screen being down there on the left. And our hotline training is on July 9th. And again, if you're interested in hotline, you can go to Better Impact. You can look at the training that you need to do to be prepared for that, that training on July 9th. And we encourage all of you to learn about this very important role, because you never know if you've hurt your knee, if you have sensitive lungs and you can't be out and the air quality index is bad, if you have other things going on in your life that require you to stay home, but you really want to help, this is a tremendous way that you can help us. Another area that's very important to Napa CART is our dispatch and communications section. As you can imagine, we can't safely send people out into the field unless we can keep track of them at all times. These are changing environments in these disasters, and we live in the beautiful Napa Valley, which is surrounded by hills, and those hills and mountains prevent the use of normal line of sight radios. So when we send a team out together, we need to ensure that that team can communicate amongst each other in a caravan, and that they can also communicate back to our command center. And so what we do is we pair up with a radio operator that's been trained with a handheld and ham radio. And that radio operator is an essential member of the team that has very specific roles as they're out there in the field. They're maintaining a communications log. They're dealing with any officials that they might come across at the roadblocks, relaying questions. This is a valuable role. During the glass fire, we had a shortage of radio operators, and it actually limited the number of teams that we could send out in the morning. And so if you have some radio experience, or if you want to learn more about radios, if you could type your name into the chat with a hyphen, and you can put comms next to it, COMMS. We'd love to reach back out to you. And again, this would be an area that you could indicate in your BI profile. GIS is an acronym for Geographical Information Systems. This is part of our planning arm. If you think of incident command, this is how we gather data to know where we can send our teams. And this is how we batch our calls or our requests for animal services, we need to batch them geographically within the mountains so that we can attend to the most calls with the fewest number of teams. If you're somebody that's a techie that likes working with this type of technology, we're using this amazing Sartopo program that allows us to apply a fire overlay to the areas that need service so that we can understand, again, where is the active fire, where can we safely send teams, how do we batch these calls. And this is a map here. This shows you what that Sartopo is able to do for us. This was the glass fire. We had a huge portion of our Northern Valley that was impacted. Every request for animal services call that came in was mapped to a location on Sartopo, and then those locations were batched into field calls. And we had several teams that would be sent out to one area, and in that one area, they would take care of 6 or 7 calls at a time. While this is going on in our comms operations center, we have a board that is tracking the call signs of all of our ham radio operators. It's telling us where each team member is and what request for animal service call they're working on. Their radio operator is radioing in the time of arrival on site and the time of departure to the next call. You can see our board operator down here is monitoring that. To the right of that board, you're going to see some T cards. For every volunteer we have in the field, we have a card that is completely filled out by them in the morning that gives us all of their contact information, their emergency contact information, anything that we might need if we need to get in touch with them in the field, or if something happens in the field. We have all that information right in front of us. Adjacent to that, we also have a green T card that has all of their vehicle information on the field. And nobody goes home from the comm center until every one of those T cards is back off the board, meaning we account for everybody when they leave and we account for everybody when they come home. And this is a really important detail-oriented job to have people in our comm center working the board, working with our radio personnel and making sure that we have constant contact with our teams that are out there. For those of you that want to learn more about how a radio works, we'll do that in our skills comms and dispatch training that's coming out. Most of the handheld CB type radios that you're all used to work on line of sight, meaning that they have to be have that line of sight to function. So if we're off in a caravan and we're all together on a road, at that handheld radio, the CB is going to work well, but it's not going to work well once we start heading into the hills. And that's where we need ham radio. When we teach you to use the radio, we're going to teach you about how to use clear text response. We're not going to use acronyms, but we need to use language that leaves no doubt that we've received the information, we understand what's going on, and that we can ask for things in an appropriate way. We're going to teach you how to use a radio. An interesting thing about radio communications when we're calling to someone is we have to adopt the, hey, you, it's me, meaning if I need to talk to the dispatch or operations center as the incident command, I'm going to clear out Napa CART dispatch, Napa CART IC. And in radio language, what that means is I'm asking dispatch to pay attention to me, and I am indicating who I am on the radio. So lots of great skills that you can learn if you're interested in doing some communications work for us. That training is coming up on July 9th. And you'll have an opportunity to work with our amazing team. I always love this slide. We have Powell Helms here on the left. He is the lead of the American Canyon Cert, and that team, as well as the other Cert teams, were absolutely pivotal in our ability to handle the glass fire event. And here at this table is the behind the scenes puzzle work that goes together that involves all of the information and data that we've gathered to put together those teams and to assign our request for animal services and make sure that that we've accounted for every animal out there and that we've got teams well coordinated. And as you can imagine, this is a huge job. And sometimes there's so much work going on to arrange these calls that our animal search and rescue teams are delayed in the morning as we try and get these out. So there is a little bit of hurry up and wait sometimes in this job, but we all have to be patient. What we often say is you have to slow down to speed up, meaning we cross our T's, we dot our I's, we make sure that every request has been handled, and then we send out our teams, and that's the most efficient way to get that done. With that, I'm going to go ahead and turn over the presentation to Nancy Curson, who is one of our co-leads of our animal search and rescue.
Hi, everybody. Are you brain dead yet? Oh, I kind of am, but I will do my best. Okay, I'd like to introduce our leader team. As you will notice from looking at the words there, most of our areas have 2 co-leads, and that's called redundancy. And that way, if, for instance, my co-lead Alan were on his annual Mediterranean cruise, when an incident broke out, I would be able to take over and vice versa. Okay, so there's me. There's Alan. Alan, say hi. We're the co-leads of the overall animal search and rescue unit. Then we have divisions. Alan also heads up our new technical rescue group. Then we have evac, which is Jen Borgen and Joan Schwer. Shelter in place is Michelle Badker and Michael Repetto. And staging, we have Michelle Harrison, me, my husband Mike, and Alan does all of the transportation. Next, we've already done this, let's skip. Megan introduced all that. So next slide. So we include in animal search and rescue, evac, shelter in place, which we call SIP, transportation, staging center or staging area, and animal technical rescue. We never know, a call comes in, we never know which it's going to be. So we really don't have strict divisions. We do them all. We do all the areas. If you're an ASAR volunteer, you might prefer shelter in place over evac, but you should know about all of those areas, and we'll do that. Okay, our next person is, I believe, Joan. Joan? Joan.
Hi, everybody. I'm Joan. You never actually know what you're going to run into. We have a lot of requests for different animals in the area. I don't know if you can see very well, there's a picture in the background of a huge tortoise, and I think there's a video that goes along with it.
This is a good example of not knowing what you're getting into until you get there. We got a call to get a turtle out, and this is what we found when we got up there. So.
Okay, you got that. 7 on all 4 sides. All 4 corners.
Yeah, that had to be very challenging. We're asked to take care of all kinds of animals, not just the furry ones, but your feathered friends, your reptiles, sometimes even fish have to be evacuated. So we make sure we've got plenty of feed. Whatever is asked of us, we try to load up and take out in the field and take care of these critters that people can't get to during a fire. Slide. And you might be loading up all these little critters. And here's a good video.
This little one wasn't halter broke, but our good team was able to get her up safely and get her home. So
it's actually very rewarding getting these guys saved and then getting to take them back home. Slide. And actually, I'll turn it over to Mike Repetto now.
Thanks, Joan.
Hi.
Hi, Mike Rapetto here. So as part of ASOR team, as we talked earlier, number one priority is yourself. Number two is your team. Number three is the animals we're rescuing. But as far as wildlife comes, we leave that up to other professionals. So if we run across any type of wildlife, you'll see the numbers on the screen there that we call in order to have take care of that piece. Next slide. And when it comes to volunteers, so we work during the daytimes. So whether it's shelter in place, evacuation, or anything else, we also go into what we call warm zones. That's usually areas that have already burnt. So most of the time we are going behind the lines, and usually with escorts going through there. And very rarely or ever do we ever go into what we call hot zones or go in after hours. Next, I turn over to Michelle to talk about notification through WhatsApp.
And I am Michelle. So next slide. WhatsApp, Claudia talked about that a little bit earlier. It's one of our main sources of communication, especially in the very beginning of the of whatever the event is. So if you don't have that app on your phone, go ahead to the app store that you use and download that. And you can send an email to either Nancy or info@napacart.org. And then as with all of the social media, we never exchange, and this isn't social media, but with anything that's out there that's somewhat available to be easily passed on, we never do any sensitive material that way. So, okay, next slide. So this is a little deceiving because when the event actually starts, it's going to be dark in the background and it's not going to be 7:30 in the morning. So that's a little deceiving, but during the fire season, I have my phone on next to my bed with the ringer really loud. So when it comes through that I'd be able to hear it. So that's something because you never know when it's going to start. We'll get a message of saying how many people are going to be needed and where they're going to be needed. And if you're available, you would respond. If you're not available, you would not respond at that time. In the beginning, it's really important to keep the lines of communication clear, not cluttered, and directly to the point. So if you're not able to come at that time, then you can keep watching your WhatsApp. And then if another one comes out, then you can respond at that time if you're able to come. So always have your WhatsApp and keep checking it. Next slide. And so Better Impact is new for us for this year. So there's going to be a transition. In the beginning, it's again, it's WhatsApp all the way. You have to have it. As we transition and we go more into shelter in place, which means we keep going back to take care of the animals behind the fire lines and where the owners are evacuated, that's when we would transition to Better Impact. Things are a little slower rate. So we would transition to that, and then you'd go on there and register for the times that you're available to volunteer for. So, so WhatsApp and Better Impact, learn them both. All right, that's it for me. Jen is next.
One comment on WhatsApp. There's been a fair amount of sort of scuttlebutt about the use of WhatsApp and the potential for breach of privacy. We're aware of that, and that's why we do ask that we don't transmit any sensitive information. Mostly it's a tool for Napa CART leaders to be able to reach out to their trained volunteers in a very quick way. When these incidents first unfold, you might not be near your computer. You might not be able to get to better impact right away. This gives us an instant heads up and way to get to you. And then we will ask you to go to Better Impact and sign up for future shifts. So in the moment, as things are unfolding, we will probably rely heavily on WhatsApp. And then as Michelle said, direct you to Better Impact. If you're one of those people that can't make it right now, but want to serve a shift, you'll have those opportunities to serve shifts. And again, as new volunteers, we're going to match you up with somebody who is experienced, and that way you get to learn and you don't feel overwhelmed by what's being asked of you. Jen?
Okay, hello again. Hey, we want to talk just a minute about toxic smoke and ashes during these wildland urban interface fires, which they all are here. And this stuff is really bad news. It is really tough, and we want to make sure everybody understands what they're getting into. And yeah, we do have a couple of things to help you deal with it. So first off, we all know that when smoke looks as bad as it did in 2020, man, it's got to be bad, right? But sometimes the particulate matter, or PM, that is less than 2.5 microns or so, you can't see it. And so there's still a lot of danger there. And just knowing what you're dealing with is one of the first ways to help protect yourself. And it's important to know that the health effects are certainly short-term. Yeah, you're going to feel a tight chest, might develop a nice cough. But it's also important to know that because some of these particles are so small that they actually can penetrate the cell membranes, and you can have problems years later from wildfire smoke. Very important to know that. So here's the 3 things that you can do to help manage your risk now that you know that the risk exists. Right? First and foremost, there's a lot of apps that you can put right on your phone, and you can track in real time what the actual air quality index, or AQI, is in the area that you're working in. There's no time to go through what those apps are, but certainly before a deployment, people can help you put those apps on your phone, and so that you have real-time data to know how bad it is out there. And it changes from hour to hour, and it also changes quickly from region to region within Napa Valley. Okay, so that's good. We know what we're getting into. And now an N95 mask. This is the best thing that you can do for yourself. You got to wear it, change it when it gets dirty. Don't try to wear it through the entire deployment or something like that. It really helps. They call it an N95 because it's able to filter 95% of that particulate matter. And that's a lot. But keep in mind that it's an N95, not an N100, right? So you're still getting some exposure even when you're wearing your mask. So that means that number 3 is kind of your last thing that you could do to help protect yourself, and that's to limit your exposure. Well, that's hard to do, especially if you're involved in a deployment and you've been going out all day doing evac, you've been working in the shelter all day. That gets difficult. So understand that the damage is happening in your lungs, whether you feel it or not. And if you have pre-existing conditions, such as high blood pressure or respiratory issues, you may need to really promise yourself that you're going to limit your exposure and let your leads know that you have that issue, and they will help remind you when it's time to take a break and just get out of that environment. So I think we'll probably have some more detailed information about wildfire smoke risk and what you can do about it in a video that'll be on Better Impact for you to view at your leisure. But for right now, that's the long and short of it. Thanks. Oh, one more slide, I think. This just shows for evac all the different things that you might find yourself getting involved with. You can see that you might be in any type of a transportation method, and you could be dealing with any kind of animals: llamas, horses, goats, cats, dogs, tortoises, right? The whole deal. So we don't expect anyone to have had experience working on Noah's Ark. So we understand that everybody needs, to gain experience over time. And that's what we're looking for. Thanks. All right, that's it for me.
Next place here, we have shelter in place. So we got to understand that all animals cannot be rescued. A lot of people, like I said, Michelle mentioned, a lot of people get out in the middle of the night, they leave their animals behind. So our job is going in. We typically go back every 2 or 3 days and after the incident, and going in and taking care of animals, whether they're chickens or cats, making sure they have water, horses, making sure they have water, and doing that. Teams consist of, usually we have to go in with a radio operator, which we use for CERT right now. And we go in, again, we go in for as long as the area is unoccupied in order for us to go there until the residents are able to re-inhabit the area. Next, I turn it over to Alan about transportation.
One comment on shelter in place duty for those of you that were in Napa during the glass fire. We had about 1,000 animals out there that were being cared for by shelter in place. And that's a lot of animals. And we had several teams deployed every day, and those teams were out all day long. So shelter in place, once the crazy evacuation period is over, shelter in place becomes the big work of the day to keep those animals well that are left behind. And in studies, in veterinary studies looking at these fires, it's often the small ruminants, chickens, things that are hard to gather in the middle of the night that don't get out. Most people get their horses out, but and that becomes our shelter job. But unfortunately, if you imagine a herd of goats or a herd of animals or livestock, that they can be very difficult to load or to gather in one of those wind events in the middle of the night. Alan, next to you.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Like we mentioned earlier, if you're interested in evacuating large animals, take the hauler certification course and we'll get you on the haul list. If you have a Class A license, please now type in that you have a Class A license. We would really love to hear from you. If you have a Class A license, you are exempt from having to take the hauler certification course. All you'll need to do is get your vehicle inspected to make sure that it is safe. Next one. And thank you everybody for helping. It's good help. You want to play the video?
Yes, looks like it's playing.
That's what we called Napa CART once we were safe, and they went all the way up and they tracked him down. And here he is. We brought him all the way, he's 11 years old, and we actually brought him all the way back from Asia with us.
Oh my gosh.
So we're really happy he's around. Thank you, Napa CART.
Yeah. Congratulations.
One of the nicest things about doing this job is when something like that happens. I've had a lot of people, you call them up and say, you know, we found your cat, or we have fed your chickens today, and they are always so grateful after everything they've gone through to know their animals are still being cared for. So I believe Dessa has the next slide.
Yes, and I think Dessa is delayed for a moment, so we're doing well on time. We caught ourselves up here. So while we wait for Dessa.
Okay, well, I'll mention real quick that any vehicles that are going behind the evacuation lines has to be inspected before they can go out. Even if you inspected it at the beginning of the season, when an event happens, you still need to check your engine oil, make sure your lights are working, and your tire pressure is good. So go ahead, Claudia.
Good. I'm gonna get back to the slide. So those of you that are interested in doing the hauling certification, there is that date for you to come down and have your vehicle inspected, your trailer inspected, and go through the obstacle course as Alan suggested. That'll be at Napa Valley College this year. And again, if you indicate through your Better Impact profile that you're interested in assisting evacuation, our plan as leaders after this training is to go back through Better Impact and look you all up based on your interests, reach out and help you in any way you need to get these training tracks done, so that by June, which unfortunately is the beginning of fire season, you've got some good information under your belt, and then we can get you some skills training to enhance that.
Could I also say that you don't have to be a trailer driver to do animal search and rescue, particularly shelter in place is very seldom do we drag a trailer on shelter in place. It's much more efficient to just put the stuff in the back of the pickup truck or the family station wagon, the SUV, even a sedan. Shelter in place is a lot more versatile in terms of vehicles, but your vehicle will still need to be inspected.
And when we put our shelter in place teams together, we often like to have a pilot car out there, just something that helps us understand what the road looks like. If we are sometimes in a shelter in place call, we might be following up from the team before who said, we might need to get that horse out of there. We've consulted with the veterinarian, the horse isn't doing well, or the goat isn't doing well. So that shelter in place team may have a trailer and truck associated with it as they head out. And in those situations, we do like to have a pilot car, somebody that can get up there ahead of the truck and trailer to make sure that there's ample turnaround space and that sort of thing. So as we put our teams together in the morning and we consider the contingencies in front of us, we'll put together a team that's ready for anything, meaning you might not have chickens on your roster that day, but you're going to have chicken feed in your truck, because if a call comes in the middle of the day that's in the area that your teams are working and they need chickens fed, it's much less efficient to drive back and get that than to already have those supplies on hand. And again, as you work with us and you learn from us in the skills training, you'll see that when we load up in the morning, we're planning for anything out there. Do we have Dessa on the call?
I actually just got a text from her. She's trying to log in. I need to send her the link real quick. I was thinking if you want to play that video from the beginning that we didn't get to play, I'll get her the link and get her in real quick.
Sure, let me see if I can.
You might also want to explain why we do the shelter in place. I've had many people ask me, well, why don't you just go and get those animals and bring them to the shelter? To kind of briefly explain why it's better sometimes, if they're safe, to just keep them where they're at.
You bet. So interestingly, the main time that we have animals get hurt during these incidents is during loading up and during evacuation. And so if the fire's burned over and the animals are safe and we can get them what they need, we like to not move them. Sometimes it's safer to just leave them where they are and take care of them there. And it's less stressful for them to not leave. It's less likely for them to be exposed to infectious disease in the shelter if we leave them where they are. That especially pertains to chickens. Once you start bringing chickens into a shelter, you're almost guaranteed to have some sort of viral outbreak. So from the standpoint of stress on the animal, for the standpoint of the risks of loading and unloading and biosecurity, in many cases, it's way better for the animal to leave it be. Now, in a disaster like the glass fire, where we have infrastructure completely wiped out, eventually those animals have to be removed. But in most cases, we can at least shelter them in place until their owners come up with a plan to get them to another location. So that's a really good point, Sheila. We're going to show this video real quick, guys. This is what what you're going to learn about me as a Napa CART leader, is that I can solve all sorts of problems unless they're technological, and then I need your help. So we're going to go back to technology and we're going to play this, and then I see Dessa's joined, and we'll go right to Dessa after that. This is an overview of Napa CART. It just tells you a little bit more what we're all about.
Hi, my name is Dr. Claudia Sonder, and I'm the president of the Napa Community Animal Response Team. The Valley Fire, which ravaged Lake County in 2015, was a wake-up call to all of the Bay Area to address the animal component of disaster response. Historically, the failure to address animals left behind in disasters has strained evacuation compliance and put first responders and civilians at risk. The power of the human-animal bond and the fact that 68% of American households own a pet has prompted more formal integration of the animal component of response locally. The Napa Community Animal Response Team, Napa CART, was developed in partnership with Napa County in 2016 to assist animal services with emergency and disaster response. Napa CART's mission is to educate the public about disaster preparedness for their pets and livestock, to assist emergency services in the evacuation, sheltering, and care of animals during a disaster, and to provide training in animal evacuation, sheltering, and trauma care to veterinary professionals, community volunteers, and to first responders. when the 2017 wine country fires exploded, Napa Community Animal Response Team sprang into action as requested by County Dispatch to deploy evacuation teams to the Nob Hill staging area and to shelter locations at Napa Valley Horsemen's Association, Valley Brook Equestrian Center, and the Vintage High School. CART volunteers and community groups worked throughout the evening with sheriff escort to remove animals from harm's way and deliver them to shelter sites where volunteers set up pens and cared for the evacuated animals for as long as needed. Amazingly, over 800 horses and 200 livestock were evacuated in the first 3 days of the complex fires by volunteers without serious incident. Napa CART collaborated with the Northern California Association of Equine Practitioners to staff and manage the shelter. Since 2017, Napa CART has worked with the county and community donors to build a supply cache of livestock panels, stock trailers, equipment trailers, and shelter supplies. These materials allow the CART to respond immediately upon activation with a trained group of volunteers who have been sworn in by Napa County as disaster service workers. These volunteers are trained in incident command with a focus on safety and situational awareness. They have completed Cert Training, hauling certification and trailer inspection, animal-specific safety and handling training, and background checks to comply with the county MOU. In addition, each CART task force includes a safety officer and a communications operator trained in ham or county radio operations that is integrated with the county communications. These teams work under the supervision and guidance of responding agencies to provide options for animals affected by disaster. Currently, the CART has the capacity to shelter hundreds of large and small animals within hours of activation. Napa CART continues to expand the experience level of its leadership and volunteers through mutual aid to other counties facing disaster. Napa CART personnel played a valuable role in sheltering operations during the deadly Camp Fire of 2018. The CART offers a diverse annual training and certification program for volunteers and can provide awareness level training for first responders who might interface with animal-related incidents.
Okay, so working together then, let's nice and gently take the horse out and around and then back into this position.
Large animals in particular present a high-risk, low-frequency challenge, and safety training is paramount to the well-being of first responders providing emergency assistance during evacuations and emergencies. Napa County is home to over 5,000 horses and countless livestock, including goats, sheep, and cattle. It's not a matter of if, it's when the next large-scale evacuation will be required. Contact us if you're interested in some safety and awareness training for your team, some hands-on time next to the large animals. We can give you some of the skills you'll need to be safe in the next disaster. To reach us, you can email us at info@napacart.org.
All right, guys. So we have caught up. You get an extra few minutes here for your break. The next break was 3:45 to 3:55. So why don't we get you back here at 3:50? We'll cut it short a little bit on the other end. So be back on at 3:50, and we'll get started with our companion animal shelter updates. If you have any questions, actually, anything pending in the chat right now that we need to address before we send people away?
No, not that I saw. There was quite a few responses of interest, but no questions, I don't think.
I love that. That's the right answer. Okay,
Yeah.
Go and take a break, get caffeinated, and we'll see you back at 3:50. Thank you.
Yeah. Claudia, some good news. We do have a couple of new members with Class A license.
Yay. That's excellent news.
I've already sent an email to them.
Good. I love that.
Tom's working on his. He just has to get back up to Oregon. Claudia,
yes.
You may be on a break, but I wanted to make sure I had a chance to introduce you to Kathleen King, who is the lieutenant, who is the lead for the 26th Cavalry of the National Guard Mounted Unit. And so she is on today, and I think there are other members of their team. They're referred to as troops. I don't know a lot of them by name, but Lieutenant King is with you. So. Wonderful. She also has a Class A license. So I just wanted to point that out. We have a lot of incredible people jumping into this today, but that's very exciting. And lots of people from Pets Lifeline.
Thank you. It's really an honor to have volunteers joining us with all these different backgrounds and skills that they can bring to the team, and really appreciate that connection, Julie. And thank you, Katie, for being on, and we welcome you and look forward to meeting you in person.
Thank you. And thanks, Julie, for the nice introduction. Thank you.
Well, I wanted to mention that while many of this team are located all around the state, a lot of them are in Southern California, Katie's actually within striking distance of us. She lives in Santa Cruz County. So, or wait, Santa Cruz or Monterey? Remind me, which one? Close enough.
You're correct, Julie, in Santa Cruz, and I'm in the Felton area where we had the CZU fire. So my area is real similar to Napa.
Yep.
Claudia, she's a roper. She's a roper. Former team roper, now breakaway roper.
Good.
Yeah, she's great. Katie, I'm so glad you made it. Are any of your other troops on this class today?
You know, I couldn't get the reimbursement pushed through.
Oh, shoot.
And I know. So I'm looking at, they will be on next year. They missed it this time. So that's
this training is going to be recorded. So we'll talk to Claudia after. I wish I'd known. I would have just covered it for you guys, but I know a lot of people were busy. So we'll work on that.
Yeah, so Katie, we can get this video to your folks, and you can tell them that we're apologize ahead of time for some technological difficulties, but we'd love to get your folks to see this and work that out as far as reimbursement. Not a problem at all.
Oh, thank you, Claudia. Thank you.
This is Judy, and I just wanted to see if anybody's on right now, or is everybody on break?
We're on.
So I'm doing Zoom through my phone, and this is just a tiniest little input. Most of your slides look to be landscape, but they don't display very well. They become very small on a phone, so you might consider maybe reformatting them to portrait.
That's very good feedback. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Can you turn your phone sideways and have it be correct?
Well, then the speaker view gets all wonky. If you're a gallery view, it works okay, but speaker view, it gets, well, at least on my LG, it doesn't seem so good.
Okay.
Yeah. Tiny feedback.
No, we appreciate that very much. All right, folks, it's 3:50 if you want to gather back around. Looks like Megan has sent out a WhatsApp to our 2022 class here. And it looks like many of you are responding, so that's lovely. If you find that you are not getting a WhatsApp from Megan, you can email her at info@napacart.org and she can help you to get connected. WhatsApp is kind of interesting. It does require updates now and again. So if you haven't used your WhatsApp in a while, it's a good idea to check it and make sure that an update isn't required. If you've exceeded your update on WhatsApp, you won't get a response. And so often during red flags days, we'll remind you to check in on WhatsApp and update it if you can. And again, we don't use WhatsApp to chat with each other or to have any type of casual conversation. We use it strictly for business, and we try and keep our responses short and to the point and clearly understood. And replying received is awesome. It means that you've got the information. And again, if we're going to respond, we're going to give a very short, to the point response on that one. So I see that you guys are all A students here, and we're watching those come back across the screen. Good work. If everyone's ready, I think what we'll do is go ahead and introduce our next presenter. This is Dessa Binstock. Dessa is amazing companion animal lead on our team, and she shares that position with Wendy Pisha of Napa Humane, and Laura Hogan is new to our team as well. Laura has extensive background in disaster response, and so we've got a wonderful companion animal team. Dessa, you can take it away.
Sounds good.
I'll advance your slide. You can just say slide when you're ready and I'll advance it for you, okay?
Perfect. Sorry about that. I have a helper in my office. Welcome everybody. So like Claudia said, my name is Dessa and I've been a registered vet tech for the last 18 years, and I'm super excited to be a part of this great team. So just a little bit about our companion animal shelter. We work underneath the Napa County Animal Shelter. So when they need us, they ask for our help, and that's kind of how we get started. So what our companion animal shelter does is in an emergency, when we get deployed, we will set up at different locations. Right now, in the past, we've used the Crosswalk Church here in Napa, where our animals can coexist with their owners. So the owners are inside and we set up our shelter in the breezeways for the dogs. And we've been lucky enough to use the Napa Humane mobile unit for our cats, so they have a safe place to be away from the noise of the dogs and the stress of all the new people, and also for their owners to be able to visit them in a safe location. And so that's been kind of nice. Some of the other locations that we may set up would be the Napa Valley College, or potentially the fairgrounds, or maybe other churches in the area. So that is kind of our start to our companion animal stuff. Slide. And in response, so when you get your alert on your WhatsApp, what you'll want to do is grab your go bag, grab your forms, and you will meet at whatever location has been sent to you. Once you get there, the companion animal trailers should be there and waiting for you. And you'll check in with the lead, whoever it might be, whether it's me, Wendy, Laura, whoever is the first person to arrive, and help with setup. We usually can get set up in about an hour. So, be prepared, and, we'll point you in the right direction on what you need to do, but never do something that you're not comfortable with or are not able to do. There's lots of positions in the small animal shelter that anybody can do. All right, next. So kind of what to expect. We, again, like I said, we work under the Napa County Animal Shelter, who is now under new management, which is exciting, and they oversee us. So everything that we need and do is in response to what they need. One of the things that, so if we need supplies or anything, we reach out to them and they get it to us, which is really nice. Once we're activated, we want to be headed to that location within an hour. And once we're there, we want to be set up within an hour. So setting up involves setting up crates. I think we have 80 or so crates in that trailer, and everything you need is in there. So we set up an intake table. We have signs letting people know where to go. And then the lead will also set up a shelter map. So whoever is there will know how to, where the animals are and who the owners are. So just, and that'll all make sense in future slides when you see the maps that we use. Next.
Yeah, Dessa, Katie Ribardieri just joined the call, and this is a good opportunity for her to introduce herself, give a little bit of history, and just say hi to all of our new volunteers. Katie, thanks for joining.
Of course. Thank you guys for having me. This is super exciting. I'm the new shelter manager for the Napa County Animal Shelter. I am extremely excited to be getting more volunteers on, because it's obvious Napa CART is a huge program that helps with the Napa County Animal Shelter. So I'm very grateful for everybody that wants to become a new volunteer with Napa CART. It's a great thing. So
wonderful. Well, thanks, Katie. And
thank you guys.
We'll see you at our training when it comes up. We'll all be working with you at the shelter, and we really look forward to it.
Fantastic. I can't wait.
Thanks, Katie.
All right. Bye, Dessa. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. Here you go, Dessa.
Yay. Katie is amazing. So we're so lucky. The shelter's so lucky to have her. So our companion shelter positions, like I said, there is something here for everybody. So obviously the shelter lead kind of runs the show. She or he is the main contact person for the shelter, for the veterinarians, whatever that may be. And obviously we need more than one lead. That's why there's 3 of us, so we can rotate and help each other. We like to have a dog lead, someone overseeing the dogs, someone overseeing the cats. Our safety officer, especially like in the setups where people can kind of come and go, it's really important that people are kind of monitoring to make sure that it's the owners getting their own dog out and not a stranger. And, making sure that things are cleaned appropriately. We don't want to cross-contaminate, no different than with the large animal stuff. We are really careful with these guys. And then the intake person, who is probably one of the most important people, because they're dealing with people when they're at the most stressful point in all of this. And then obviously the veterinary team, and that's, kind of what's nice, that I can come in and do evals on all these dogs and cats and kind of get a baseline. And then if any of these animals are injured and need to seek veterinary care, we can definitely handle that as well. Next. So kind of things that you should be prepared to do in a day. I mean, the obvious: feeding, watering, cleaning. If we're working with dogs, one person walks the dog, the other person cleans. It just makes everything go really smooth. Donation management, which we don't really take in physical donations. We just don't have the place to store it. And most of the stuff that we need, like food and litter, we will reach out to the animal shelter and they will make sure we have it. Again, intake is huge. Intake, people that have attention to detail is so important. Every time we do something like this, we learn lessons, and making sure that what the owners write down on their paperwork is legible. that the phone numbers are correct. Just things that we've run into, you know, it's super important, you know, and at the end of the day, you know, being able to clean up and be ready for the next day. So like I said, lots of jobs for physical jobs and non-physical jobs. We need everybody. Next. Here's a peek at our trailer. It's amazing what we have stocked in that thing. It doesn't look big, but there's a lot of stuff in there. A lot of useful stuff. So this is kind of a peek at the inside of our trailer. All those bins are numbered, and inside that trailer is a map, and it tells you what is in all of those bins. And that way, when you get there, you can look and see what we need to set up. There's a pressure washer in there, cleaning supplies. There is, I think we have cat litter in there, but we don't store none of our food is in there. So, you know, it's just, there's tables, there's whiteboards, everything is packed in there. Nets for loose critters. And I think that's Lisa from Napa Humane and myself in that trailer. Next. Oh, you're already on me. So like I said, we have 80 collapsible crates in there. All the signage that you will need, pointing people in the right direction, our forms, even a book of kind of what everybody's roles are. There's new bins with PPE in it. So lots of good stuff in that trailer. And that is our Napa Humane mobile unit that we house cats in. Next, oops. So this is one of our animal care sheets. Just like with the large animal, it's super important to note, you know, when animals are walked, when they've gone to the bathroom, how much they ate, how much they were fed. You know, with cats, we worry a lot about their urination. That's a really big thing. You know, cats, when they're stressed, won't pee, and then it causes a whole slew of problems. So these animal care sheets are super, super important. Next, intake. So like I said before, the person who's doing intake, it's such a critical role because those people are coming in, they don't know what's going on at home. And when they bring their animals, you know, they're really stressed. And so if we can make things as smooth as possible, that's what we want to do. So, you know, we want the person at that first contact to be calm and cool and collected to help with the people. So we've kind of created a wristband protocol where the owners wear a wristband that matches the animals' numbers. So that way we can make sure that the right people are taking the right animals. Our small animal shelter so far, we're not taking in stray animals. Any stray animal would head to the animal shelter so they can be properly photographed and identified. And because most people looking for their missing pet is going to head to the animal shelter to look for it. So, so for us right now, we are mostly doing just people and their animals where they are co-inhabiting a shelter. Hopefully this year, there'll be more of us being able to be called upon as volunteers to help at the shelter when the animal shelter is needing extra hands on deck. We'll be able to send our trained volunteers over to help at the shelter. Sorry, I'm getting yelled at. My battery is going low. So I'll make this. So sanitation and biosecurity, again, just, you know, we clean up. We don't put animals that aren't from the same family next to each other. We cover their cages so they have a little den. We note vomiting, diarrhea, coughing, and sneezing to make sure that we can just do what's the healthiest for these animals. If we think we have an animal that is maybe has a cold, kennel cough, anything like that, we're going to make sure that they have their own space so we're not contaminating any of the other animals. And obviously, if you're ever concerned about an animal, even if you're not sure it's a big deal, let the shelter lead know, and they'll let the veterinary team know, and we'd rather be safe than sorry and check an animal out. So this is just kind of an idea of the site map that we had on the whiteboard inside the mobile unit for the cats. It just, every cage was labeled, what animal was in there, owner's name, and then, and if animals were on meds, had special diet, you know, that's all going to be on their treatment sheet. So, and then on our whiteboards also, the shelter leads names and phone numbers will be on there. So if you ever need to get to hold of any of us, you know how to do it. Next, just a few things that you should have on your person when you're at one of the shelters. And we have these in the unit, so it's not that you have to bring them from home, but a slip lead is always handy to have, a loose animal. We walk animals in the slip lead, so there's no chance of them slipping out of their collars. The pliers are because all of the wire kennels are put together with zip ties to make sure the animals can't break out. Always have a pen in your pocket and a notebook, Sharpies, poop bags, which all this stuff, like I said, all of this is in that trailer. Just make sure you have it on your person when you're working your shift. Next. Whoops. So just some of the classes that help with the small animal shelter. There's an animal handling vitals that is online, and then also the small animal shelter training will, I believe, be at the animal shelter on June 4th. And you know, and when you're learning, you'll be paired with an experienced volunteer. You're not going to just get thrown out to do things with no help. So like I said, it's always important to ask questions if you don't know or something wasn't clear. And never handle an animal that you're not comfortable with. If you're not comfortable with big dogs, don't handle big dogs. Or if a dog's looking at you funny, get one of your leads. We want to be safe. And
Perfect. I think that's it, Dessa.
Perfect.
Thank you so much. And any questions for Dessa while we have her here? Anything in the chat? When we do all get together on June 4th, we will have the opportunity to be at the Napa County Animal Shelter. They have beautiful protocols and systems in place that we're all going to learn. We'll get a tour of the shelter. We'll get walked through their different procedures and processes. It's a really fun training. And then during that training, we're also going to get a tour of the small animal trailer that you see right there, so that you will know your way around. There's a map in there. The bins are actually numbered in the order that they need to come off of the trailer, meaning that all the setup and intake stuff is going to be in that, you know, those first few bins. So we'll make sure as volunteers that you really have a good understanding of the jobs that you might be asked to do during a deployment. Anything in the chat or questions come up?
There's nothing in there referring to the companion animal that Dessa just did. There is one question that says, I was wondering if a volunteer is on 2 carts and both carts put a call out for volunteers to a 3rd location for emergency response. Do you recommend replying to both carts or pick one to avoid double booking?
I would pick one to avoid duplication. And the way that this all works, and again, thanks, Dessa. The way that this all works is that right now, the animal component of disaster response in California is still a little bit of the Wild West, meaning every year we get slightly better at coordinating all the assets that are out there, but we're still not where we need to be. So this year was the first year where mutual aid requests for shelter volunteers came in through the Napa County Emergency Operations Center and were sent to us, which is great. That's a good sign. So mutual aid requests will come in to a county. For example, when the Dixie Fire, they requested mutual aid. NAVDAG got a request, we got a request, Sonoma CART got a request. So if you're a volunteer with one organization, maybe pick your primary organization and respond to them. Whoever's closest to you, I guess, is probably the right way to go. And then you may find that you're working with other Napa CART people where you end up. But your question is very valid. And yes, we are trying to avoid duplication of names on rosters, because oftentimes it comes down to numbers. Do we have enough people to get mutual aid support where it needs to be? So great question. Just checking timing here. We are right on time to start with Sheila Edgington. Sheila is our livestock shelter lead. She is also our treasurer for Napa CART board. There's very little that Sheila can't do. And with that, Sheila, I'm going to hand it off to you.
Hi, everyone. As Claudia just said, I'm Sheila Edgington, and I am the livestock shelter lead. The mission obviously is to shelter and care for the large animals during a declared evacuation. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. We have designated sheltered sites. That's a picture of the Napa Valley Horsemen's Association during one of the deployments. Kind of gives you a good idea of what our large animal shelter sites look like. Go ahead and go to the next slide. We currently have 3 main large animal shelter sites. Napa Valley Horsemen's Association on Foster Road, Valley Brook Equestrian Center on El Centro, and Ag for Youth, which is leasing some property at Napa Valley Horsemen's, so it's on Foster Road. We do have a site up in Calistoga that we use for storage and stuff. So we do have some other areas, but these are our main shelter sites for our large animals. Go ahead and go to the next slide. There are quite a few different roles within the livestock shelter. I have broken it down into 2 different sections this past year, basically animal and non-animal. And I can go ahead and go with the different roles. We have the shelter lead, which is myself. And then there's the shelter site leads, because there's the opportunity to have more than one shelter site open at one time, and I can't be at all the different locations. So we have assigned different shelter site leads, and they will run that shelter when I'm not there. And then we have the assistant leads, which are really important and really help me be able to focus on running the shelter more than caring for the animals. And they kind of oversee that piece. Volunteer coordinator is another role that is really important. They really help keep just oversight of how many people we need, and that does not need, you do not need to be a large animal knowledgeable person to be a shelter coordinator. So that's a great example of someone, if you don't have horse experience, but you still want to help, that's an area that I could use you, and it's very important. Intake specialists, as Dessa kind of mentioned in hers, really important. This is the person that is going to take all the information as the horses come in, and it's kind of the start of the whole process. Large animal sites, we have a lot of paperwork, a lot of forms that need to be filled out, and the intake specialists kind of help with that in corralling all of that together. You don't necessarily have to be a horse person for the intake specialist if all you're doing is getting the information from the owners. And then we have the animal care specialists, and those are people that are specifically trained to be around the large animals. we do have qualifications. I'm not going to go really in depth into that, but 10 years at least experience with multiple horses. Thank you, Claudia. With multiple horses, having taken the equine safety and first aid. We'll have special training on biosecurity, which is pretty detailed in the shelters, and also the understanding that human heat illness and prevention. We have had a couple instances where people have kind of gotten, you know, overheated and not feeling well. Some of these deployments, it's very hot. You're outside the entire time. We do have shade and other things like that, but you can definitely get out there and get overheated. So learning all of that is really important. One of the other things I was going to kind of talk about is we have set up quadrants. So if you are in the animal care area, we've sectioned off certain areas as quadrants. So you would be assigned a quadrant, and that would be your, say, 10 horses that you would be taking care of. So you will be trained on a lot of the different areas when you're in the animal care section. People think that that's really all we do with the shelter is only the animal care, but I do want to reiterate that there are other positions, very important, very needed positions that do not require the horse knowledge. So please don't let that stop you from volunteering in this area. If you don't know large animals, that's okay. We can still use you, and there's still a place for you. So go ahead, Claudia. Also like to bring up the Ag for Youth, which is where our non-equine friends go. We do have someone that has been assigned, hopefully to be able to kind of oversee that area, but we see all kinds of different animals in there: goats, sheep, you know, cows, pigs, the llamas, alpacas. You don't have to have knowledge of all of those animals, but if you do have livestock experience with 4-H or any of those, you have, you know, personal animals at home, that's a great and really fun place to work at. I love being able to go up and help in the Ag for Youth area. It's different than the horse area in that you just go in usually the morning and the evening for feeding, and then obviously they need to be their areas need to be cleaned. It's a little quieter than the horse section, but there are resident animals that are there year round. So we just need to be very mindful that it's not just our space. There are other animals that are there at the same time. So go ahead and
before I advance that, if any of you have experience with livestock or a specific type of livestock, whether goat, sheep, llama, alpaca, pig, if you could type that into the chat with your first name and then a hyphen and then that type of animal you feel comfortable, or livestock in general, that'd be greatly helpful.
And if you are interested in working in the livestock team, please put your name in the chat. I do try to get together a couple of times, either during the year or depending on if there's a deployment or not, and just kind of go over things, especially with leads. These shelters are open for usually 2 weeks at least. It's a lot of work, and we need a lot of redundancy in the leads and stuff like that, so that we can be able to take some breaks. So if anyone has a lot of horse experience and would be interested in a shelter site lead or an assistant lead, you could also put that in there. There's just a little bit more training that goes into that, and a little bit more meetings where we get together and discuss it. So would love to hear from anybody that's interested. You can go ahead, Claudia. And then this is our upcoming training. one other thing I'd like to add is usually around June of the year, we have little panel setup parties at both Napa Valley Horsemen's and Valley Brook. We would like to have the at least 50, if not more, set up prior to an activation. We have had to put them up after the emergency has happened. It's not what we want, so we try to be ahead of that. This year, it looks like July 4th, we're going to have the actual livestock shelter presentation, where we'll go into a lot more detail about the forms and the equipment that we have and all the different roles. Also that same day, I believe in the afternoon, we will be looking for volunteers to help set up the panels at Napa Valley Horsemen's. So if you can join us on the 4th, that would be great. On the 12th, we also have at Valley Brook on El Centro, we're going to have the safe handling of the livestock and first aid. And then we'll have the panel set up there. If we are allowed to, they're kind of having some construction there, so we're not sure if we'll be putting up panels there this year yet or not. They already have some set up, so it's kind of already set. And then usually between November, December, looks like late November of this year, we will be going and taking those panels down. We don't want them to be up through the entire winter. They soak into the ground and they're hard to open. And remember, we do not own these shelter sites. We have MOUs with these organizations that allow us to use their properties. So we like to be respectful of that and not take up too much room during the year. One thing I would like to mention that I think is really special about Napa CART is that we do have Claudia and Napa Valley Equine, other vets that are there to help us. So it's so wonderful to work in the shelter knowing that if there is something that you're unsure about, the way the horses look, that there's a vet really close to be able to come down, take a look. We work really closely with the vets that are there, and I just think that's wonderful, and I think it's unique, and it's something that is you just learn for your own animals as well when you're down there working with the horses. And I think that's about it for me.
Sounds great. So those of you that are interested in that livestock area, you can indicate that on BI. You can go through the home trainings that'll get you ready for that June 4th skills meeting, and be looking out once all the leaders have gone through your areas of interest on BI. We will reach out, check in, make sure you're making good progress on your training, and get to know you a little bit better. And I encourage you to branch out. You know, they say we're supposed to do one thing that scares us every day, right? So if you've never been around horses, but you're really good with forms and with people, and come down and be part of be a volunteer coordinator or help with some of the administrative paperwork that's needed down there. It's a really good way to expose yourself to these amazing large animals, and we need you. So don't be shy. I always encourage volunteers year after year, cross-train, pick one thing every year that you didn't have any interest in and just investigate it. It's amazing what you can find when you start looking. There's all aspects of this work are really rewarding. And that's why we're all here. We want to help. We want animals to be reunited with their owners. We want to see an impact that we can have as volunteers in our community. And this is a really great way to do it. I think that's all that we have for our presentation. We've got a little time here to entertain any questions that have come up, or anything that we didn't cover in the presentation to you all now. So if anyone has a question, go ahead and type it into the chat, and we'd be happy to answer it. We gave you a lot of information today. This training is recorded, so you could certainly have the opportunity to go back through the training. You've got our emails if you have questions. All of the leaders that you've seen today have emails with their first name at Napa CART. So if you have a question for me, it's just Claudia at Napa CART, Megan at Napa CART, so on and so forth. We'd love to hear from you. We're delighted to have such a nice large turnout of new volunteers. You're our class of 22. And as you could see from the presentation, in the good old days prior to 2020, we would gather and do a lot of in-person training together. And it's just a really great social, fun group of people with that common bond of loving animals. So I highly encourage you to join our team and come learn with us. Anything in the chats, Alan?
No questions. Well, let's see. There's several people who have listed their experience with different animals. We have Amy, who's got experience with horse, goats, chickens, ducks, and emus. Bobby Sue has a horse, large and many, cattle, goats, sheep, chickens, dogs, cats, llamas, alpacas.
Hooray.
We have a person here, Natasha, who's been a zookeeper for 12 years, including, I don't even know what that is. UNGULATES, ungulates?
Ungulates.
Ungulates, okay. I've never heard of that before. Dog, cats, marine mammals, and she says that she is interested in ASAR,
Wonderful.
SIP, livestock sheltering, and companion animal sheltering. So first come, first serve on that one. Christy Hansen, who has farm animals, large horse, cow, pigs, sheep, goats, small chicken, rabbits, reptiles, pretty much all 2- or 4-legged critters. So I know that in the past, when we go out on evacuations, we've always had a problem getting people. We got plenty of people that have horses and that kind of stuff, but then when you get down to some of those other things, we get kind of shorthanded on experienced people with goats, and you know, goats when they're rattled, they can be real difficult to round up.
Yes, in fact, they're often left behind. Goats, cats too, often left behind because when they feel stress or when they sense stress, they hide, right? They disappear. So we do often have to care for animals that are dearly loved, where the people did everything they could to try and catch them, but just couldn't. And that's part of this job. So thanks, Alan. Well, I think with that, I think we may have tortured you all enough. We're 2 minutes early, which is a miracle in its own right. So I want to thank you all for being here today. Don't worry about what you saw. We're not going to test you on all this. We're going to ask you now to go back to BI, indicate your interest, start your own training tracks, reach out. If you have questions, we'll have some follow-up after this training. We're going to send you a 214 form so that you've got that and you're ready to deploy. We're going to make sure that you have access to the other materials that you need. I know, Megan, how'd you do on WhatsApp? If there's anybody that didn't get a WhatsApp alert and you were on this training today, go ahead and email Megan at info@ and we'll figure out what the problem was. Sometimes that's just an app problem or something else, but we'll get it sorted out for you. And with that, I think I'll have the leaders stay on for a minute, but I will bid you all adieu. And again, on behalf of our entire team, thanks for taking the time to join us today.